आदाब दोस्तों, मैं सुहेल फारूक हूँ और आप मुझे YouTube पे देख रहे हैं। वीडियो शुरू करने से पहले घंटी का बटन दबा के मेरे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कर लीजिएगा ताकि आपको आने वाली तमाम वीडियोस के बारे में बर वक्त इत्तला मिल सके। हमने डिसीजन मेकिंग के ऊपर एक वीडियो बनाई थी और उस वीडियो में जो एंड हमने किया था वो ये था कि हाउ टू शिफ्ट द स्पॉटलाइट, व्हाई डू वी नीड टू शिफ्ट द स्पॉटलाइट। इस पे अभी मैं बाद में बात करता हूँ। पहले ये बताता हूँ आपको कि 2017 में कामरान ज़िया ने मुझे एक बुक दी थी। चिप एंड डैन हीथ की बुक थी और उसका नाम था डिसाइसिव। As I said, I had been into decision making for quite some time, and I've been through a lot of decision making literature. But that book actually changed the whole perspective of decision making, for me at least. I started looking at different dimensions of decision making while I went through that book, and I kept reading that book, and I still read that book. So when I am talking about decision making, though I will be borrowing the ideas and the information from the other books and the other literature and my personal experiences, but primarily I will be going through that book, Decisive, as well. And I must say that the use of this book is purely for academic purposes, and it has nothing to do with business. And this is an acknowledgement on my behalf that that book is a great book. So going back to shifting the spotlight, why we need to shift the spotlight is that we need to, when we move the spotlight, we need to identify the 4 basic hurdles, or in the language of Dan Heath, the 4 villains of decision making, and he defined them as number 1 is narrow framing, number 2 is confirmation bias, number 3 is short-term emotions, and number 4 is overconfidence. So we will look into these 4 hurdles or 4 villains of decision making one by one. But today I will just give you a brief summary of these 4 villains of decision making. So the first one is narrow framing, which is it's about limiting ourselves with options. Like in our life, most of the time when we were kids, we used to make decisions like, should we go to eat burger or not? Should we go to watch a movie or not? And even when we became professionals, for a good period of time, we kept doing decisions by using the or method. Like, should we launch this product or not? Should we roll out this strategy or not? So it's like making decisions as a youth when we are making decisions for our professional career. And that is narrow framing. When we learn how to move the spotlight, we actually avoid narrow framing, and we can see the other options as well. And this leads to a phrase which is the opposite to the or strategy. This is called the and strategy. So this will be like, should we use this and that? So instead of can we use this and that, can we do this and that? So that actually will give you unlimited options. It's not like limiting you to only one option to go for. So we will discuss that in further details in the videos to come. The second thing, which is the second villain, and it is called the confirmation bias, which is seeking out information that bolsters our beliefs. Now, this is very common practice, actually. In all my life, I have seen others and I have seen myself doing the same, like going with something which rings bell in my head, doing something which actually rhymes with my thoughts, something that agrees with my philosophy, something that agrees with my intellect and my knowledge. I always go for it. And something which is beyond my understanding, or something which I never read about or studied or practiced or nobody told me, I am unwilling to do that. So when we are making decisions, we generally go with this confirmation bias. It's natural that two people are making a presentation and somebody who's been working with me for 4 or 5 years, he understands me so well. He knows what I want to listen to and what I want to see. So he put those kind of slides in front of me and he stimulates that nerve, which leads to confirmation bias. And in the end, I go for a decision and I choose his marketing or sales plan or his plan instead of the other, despite that it's very likely, it's very possible that his plan is better than the plan which I went for, but because that plan is in more confirmation with my understanding and my beliefs, and it bolsters my beliefs, so I went for that plan instead of going with the plan which could be a better plan for the company, for the business, and everything. So second villain is confirmation bias, and how to avoid confirmation bias, this is we are going to discuss in the days to come through different videos. Number 3 is having short-term emotions. And short-term emotions are very, very difficult to get away with. When we are making decisions or when we are not making decisions, we have certain kind of emotions. I gave an example of Andy Grove the other day in one of my videos, which was not about decision making, though it was about decision making, but the video was made in political perspective. And I gave the example of Intel's president, Andy Grove, and he learned how to isolate himself from those transitory emotions and short-term emotions, and he gave himself the freedom to think like the others and just not like himself, to have those emotions of losing one aspect of the business of Intel, and then making that decision of cutting off one line of business instead and going with the new business. So you know that Andy Grove's example, and then you know that how Intel made fortunes in the days to come. And the last thing, the last villain, the fourth villain is overconfidence. Yeah, overconfidence is something which make us do a lot of bad decisions. I did bad decision in the past and it worked out for me. So that means that I am a good decision maker. So instead of going through the whole process of making decisions, I use that experience of mine, which helped me to make a decision, and I repeat that practice and make another decision because of the overconfidence. Sometimes I have this confidence that whatever decision I make, it never fires back. There's a big example of people acquiring Gatorade and then Quaker and then Snapple. I will give this example when we will be discussing the overconfidence, that this guy who owned, he's the CEO of Quaker, they acquired Gatorade, which is a big drinks company in America, and that decision, without any analysis, without any gut feeling, he just did it on a whim because he was overconfident about it. And then once he did it, the decision was a correct one, and the company grew astronomically. And when he was making the same decision on acquiring Snapple, he made the same mistake. He didn't look into it properly. He just followed his gut feelings and his previous decision-making ability, which helped him to grow the business. And once he acquired Snapple, then after 6 months or so, he realized that he made the biggest mistake of his life. So overconfidence is something which make us do a lot of bad decisions. So these are the 4 different villains of decision making, and we will be talking about them at length in future in different videos. Enough for one day. Thank you very much for being with me. Good night. Take care.